Okay, I am back now that I have recorded audio tracks as part of the guide track that I'm going to send out to my students. If you missed the video before where I was doing MIDI play along tracks, which is my first step, then I'll put a link down in the description. If it were just me doing this and I would be the musician in the multi-panel video, then I would have taken those MIDI tracks, I would have filmed myself recording these audio tracks and I'd be done with it. I'd be sticking it in the video editor and putting it all together. But since I am going to send this out to students, I want to have some actual string instrument play-alongs for them so that they can hear what it really sounds like and how they should fit in. So I'm going to take you through this now. So at this point, I have taken violin, viola, cello, bass, the MIDI parts, and muted them all. I'm done with them. Those are really throwaway tracks. They were there to keep me in the right place and to keep me playing in tune, right? The other thing I've done is, I made my audio tracks. I made a viola and a viola divided track since there is some divisi in the viola. And I just ran through it and then I edited out the silent parts and kept just the bits where there's the divided part. So I did the top part in the main viola track and the bottom parts, here and there where they were needed. All right, the other thing that I've done, and I'm just going to be absolutely shameless about this because I didn't want to take a whole lot of time on it. This is going out to students. This is not my finished product. I ran an auto tuner on all of the tracks already. I did not do the violin track because, I played it pretty well in tune, but there's a couple notes here and there. And if this were going to be like my performance of my piece or something that I was putting out, then I would take a little more time to practice it and really nail every note. I would have done parts again, but I didn't want to take the time on this. I just want to get it through, get the parts pretty good, and I'm going to run auto tune on it just to clean the last little bit up. So I'm going to show you that here on the violin part. So I'm going to expand my violin part here. And the way you get that, I'm going to right click and I'm going to use a program called Melodyne, which is included in the Cakewalk by BandLab. At least there's a light version, which is included in the free download. I'm going to pick Region FX, Melodyne, create Region FX. And we're going to wait on the status bar, and it's going to open the Melodyne window down here in the bottom. All right, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep this very simple. I'm going to click right here, which is the correct pitch macro. I'm going to set it to 80%, and you can see it tidying up just a little bit as I move the slider. Like I said, I played it really quite well in tune, but there was a note here or there, and that's just going to catch that note here or there. I'm going to hit OK. And at this point, I am going to check that just to make sure that it did okay, but I'm not going to make you sit here and listen to it because every now and then it miscorrects a note. So I'm going to check that and then I'll be right back. All right, so I took a moment to check that, and it all sounds pretty good to me. Like I said, there wasn't much to fix in there, and I'm just not feeling bad about it at all. It saves me some time and is going to get this out to my students a little bit faster. Now, the other good thing about this is because I teach in a middle school. This is a pretty easy piece of music, but the players are young, and this way, when I bring their parts back in, I have this recording of me that I can kind of have underneath. The final mix will feature the students, but this, depending on what I get back, might just be in there a little bit to help them out. So anyway, that's done. All right, so next is I'm going to go ahead and close this window, and I'm going to click the snowflake right here, which freezes the track, and that saves on some processing power. That means that auto tuner isn't always running there in the background. So I'll click that. I got a little status bar, and then that's going to turn blue like these other tracks. One more thing that I've done in terms of freezing that track is down here in the console view, you can pick whether your tracks are mono or stereo. Since I'm recording through a single microphone, this defaults to stereo, but I set those to mono tracks because it makes the freezing, I think, work a little bit better. But anyway, that is not that big of a deal, and if you want to do it like this, then not do that. I don't think it'll matter all that much. Okay, so the other thing that I've got to do now is I've got to get this lined up with my instructions because I did record some instructions for the students along with the metronome. And what it has in there is it has an alignment tip. I have asked them to look at the camera and in time say with me, Big Bertha's bald baby. Because that's kind of silly, but if I get all the kids to look at the camera and say that at exactly the same time, the B sound is very clear in the lips and is very clear in their audio. So I'm going to be able to use that to align the tracks. So I have them say Big Bertha's bald baby together with me in time, and then I give them some time to go ahead and get their instruments ready, and then I give them a count in to actually start playing. So they have to start playing at measure 13. And I've put a couple of flags here. I put a marker right here just for me to know where I was starting my recording, because every time I recorded, I gave myself 4 measures of metronome before I started. So that was starting all at the same spot. You can see how my recordings all line up. But I put another marker here where the song has to actually start. So I gave myself 4 measures of count-in before I started playing. But I need the song to start right here. So I'm going to back up this marker 3 measures. 1, 2, and 3. And if I drag all of these back, those 3 measures, then my recording should line up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and give myself a little more room to see everything. Like I said, I usually have this spanned across 2 monitors, which makes it easier to deal with. I'm going to zoom all this in so I can see my tracks, and I'm going to go ahead and click and drag around everything. So all of that is selected. And actually I don't think I did so good. I want to make sure I select right up to the edge. Actually, so I'm going to right click and drag. I'm going to get this box. There I go. Now I have a clean edge to my selection, and I'm going to drag this all back 3 measures. So let's see. And there it is. I'm going to click OK. And now if I go to my marker right here, and I'm going to zoom back in, then I can see that right here, everything lines up and everything starts at exactly the right spot. So just a couple more steps, and then I'm ready to mix this down to send it out to students. First thing is I want to trim these back. So I'm going to go ahead and right click and drag and select these together. I'm going to drag these on back, and I'm going to zoom in right here because I don't want to drag it back to exactly the bit. Sometimes I play a little bit on top of the beat, and if I started a note just a hair before, then I don't want that to accidentally get cut off. So I'm just going to drag this back to almost the beginning, and then I'm going to draw myself a little fade in right there so I don't get any clicks or pops when that comes in. So that is now ready to go. And I'm going to take my instructions track, and I'm going to back it up a little bit. I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to give it a little fade out, although that's probably not really necessary, because you can see right here is my 1, 2, 1, 2 ready play. So there's the count in for everybody to start. I'm going to go to, the ending over here. And you can see where I never quite tightened up my metronome loop, so I'm just going to go ahead and drag this back to right there. I'm going to give a right click and drag. Pull these all back. Seem to have missed one a little bit. There we go. I'll drag that one on back in. And I should be ready to go with this guide track. I'm going to press W, rewind to the beginning. Zoom in a little bit, and let's just get a listen so you can hear what I gave for instructions. And just a little bit getting into the song, and then I'll be ready to mix it down. So here we go. This is what I've got. I need you to look straight at the camera and say with me, Big Bertha's bald baby, right on time. Look at the camera, and 1, 2, ready? Big Bertha's bald baby. Very good, thank you. Now get ready to play. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. We don't need to listen through the whole thing, but you get the idea and you hear the instructions that they'll be listening to this through their earbuds or their headphones or whatever they use. The metronome is in there and an actual strings recording. I do want to show you one other thing that I did to the strings recording is, let's see if I can get this nice and tall. There we go. In the mixer view, I have put some EQ onto all of the parts here because particularly for bowed strings, I'm going to open this up, and I've really limited myself to the things you can get that come free with this package. I have some paid tools that I like better. But yeah, like I said, you can do pretty much what needs to be done in the free version. I usually find on bowed strings around 4,000 hertz, you usually have to dip a little bit because there's some harshness in there that comes from just recording the bow. You get some harsh bow noise, and if you dip out just a little bit around, I don't know, somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 hertz. You have to search around for it a little bit. You end up getting a less harsh tone. And, sometimes I bump a little bit in the low register just to warm it up. And so anyway, you can play around with that. Here, I'll just show you my settings real quick. Your mileage may vary. Different microphones and different instruments need different things. But I put that little bit of EQ onto each instrument just to smooth it out a little bit. All right, so now I am ready to turn this into an MP3 file. So to do that, I need to select everything. So I'm just going to click and drag right down the edge here. Oops, it went out a little bit too far. So why don't I try it again. There we go, since I didn't have that selection already made, and actually I don't need to include these, those are muted anyway. So I've got my instructions, my metronome, and all of my string parts selected. You can see the selection runs from the beginning to the end. I'm going to come up here to the top left, click Export Audio, MP3, and let's see, I'll call this Dragon Slayer guide track, and I do need to make sure I get over to the right folder. Here we go, MP3. I'm going to change the sample rate to 44.1 because that's more of a universal standard. 48K sample rate doesn't get played back well by all devices, but 44.1K is going to get played back by everything. I'm going to click Save. And I think the defaults for this are going to be just fine. Hit OK. We get a little status bar, and it's going to mix down and give me an MP3 file that I can now email out to my students. So they will listen to this in their headphones or their earbuds or whatever they're going to use while they record their track. And when I get their tracks back, I'll have those Bs to help line everything up and put it together. So that's a look at my process for doing this. Other people may do it differently. You may find other ways that work for you, but I hope this has been helpful for you. If this has been helpful, remember, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and once I get some recordings back from my students, I will follow this up with another video showing at least a little bit of the process of putting those together and getting those put in the video editor and getting this all ready to publish. Thank you so much.